Okay. Good morning. We're learning Ilana Chaya Basarach. We're on Daf Nun Tes on the base by the Mishnah, 4 lines from the top. Zok the Mishnah. V'chayav al Hashem b'fnei atzmai, v'chayav al avoyin b'fnei atzmai. Right, in the previous Mishnah, we said there are certain minchas that need both both shemen and levina, some that need just shemen, some that need just levina, and some that don't have either one. So the ones that don't have either shemen, oil mixed in with the flour, and they don't have the levina, which is I think it's always translated as frankincense, which is frankincense also needs a translation as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. I think it's a kind of spice. I think it is, but it's like as we're going to see, it's pieces of spice. It's something large chunks of this levina spice. So those things are a minchas kenayis, which is a mincha of a saita, and the minchas chayta, which is the minchas of the carbonite leviyarid. Those people, for an ani who did a certain chatayim, he could bring a minchas chayta. Those that we learned that there's no shemen and there's no levina. And not only is there no shemen, no levina, but there's also a lav to put shemen and levina on them. So the Mishnah is saying yechayiv for putting the shemen on the minchas, let's say the minchas chayta or the minchas kanayis, and you also chayiv separately for putting the levina on. You're going to be over a lav if you do so. Good morning, Dovi. Mazel tov on the beautiful bar mitzvah.
Good morning. Thank you.
It was really, really nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice voice. And he said the pshatel very nicely.
Thank you.
Nasan aleh shemen. So we're at the Mishnah on Nun Tes Amud Beis. We just started. So they said there's a lav to put shemen or levina on those minchas that don't have that. Nasan aleh shemen pasla. Now there's a difference between the shemen and levina. First of all, there's a lav that you're not allowed to do it. Second of all, if you put shemen into the mincha, you passed it. Levina, you like tema. But the levina, you can take out the levina and then it'll become kosher again. Certainly possible while the levina is on the mincha, but if you take off the levina, it's kosher. Nothing shemen al shireha eina over beloisase. The Gemara said, the Mishnah says, if you put shemen on the leftovers, meaning you took out the kaimitz, and now it's no longer the original mincha. So the kaimitz was burnt on the mizbech, and now you have left over what's supposed to be eaten. This is by the minchas chayt and the minchas kenais that you're not going to be over a loisase. We have a pasuk that excludes the minchas chayta from a chiyuv after you took off the kaimitz. Zok the Gemara. Zok the Mishnah. Nasan kli al gabi kli loy pasla. If you put a kli full of shemen or a kli full of levina, it doesn't passel it. Meaning, while it's there, it's not going to passel it. I guess for the kaimitz, for the levina, and the shemen would passel it. But if it's in another kli, it's not going to be passel it. And we'll see from the Gemara, I think that it means even if it's the other way around. If you have a cover, I don't think it's typically the case. But let's say there was a cover on the mincha, on the silas, and you put the shemen on top of that cover, it wouldn't be chayiv because the limud is that it has to be physically touching in order to passel. But just having it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't even be asur l'chayra. It's the isur is only for the two things to touch. Putting it a separate kli on top would not passel, and it wouldn't be ayr. Taner Rabban. Lo yasam aleh shemen. V'im sham pasel. Torah says you shouldn't put, what's the whole pasuk? He's talking about the minchas chayta, the person of a carbon oil of a yared who did one of the chatoim, and he doesn't have enough money. Said first, if he doesn't have money to bring a sheep, then he brings a tyrim of bnei yaina. And now this pasuk is saying if he doesn't have enough money even for the birds, for a tyrim of bnei yaina, vehevies karbon eshechata asirus ha'efa silas, a tenth of an ephah nisaron of silas, the chatas as a chatas, lo yasam ala Hashem and lo yitan ala levina ki chatasi. The Torah says he shouldn't put on it shemen, he should put on it levina because it's a chatas. So we darshan lo yasam ala shemen bim sham pasul. If he it said Torah says he shouldn't put on shemen. If he does, it's pasul. Yachal yitin ala levina bim nasam pasul. Maybe we'll have the same din by the levina. But if he puts the levina on it, it will also be pasul. And we in the Mishnah had said that if he put on it levina, he could just take off the levina. They're both equally either an essay for doing it. You have a lice essay, I'm sorry for doing it. But the question is, why are they different as far as that the shemen pasels and the levina does not? Tamalama kichatasi, kichatas. The Torah says kichatas. So kichatas tells you that it remains a chatas even though you put the levina on it. Well, why do we say that the kichatas is only going talking about levina? Maybe by a shemen also. The Torah is saying don't put shemen into this mincha, but if you do kichatasi, it remains a chatas. He's still going to get a kapara. It's not going to passel the akrava. Tamaloi he. Torah says he only it, not something else. That tells you that if you add the shemen, it's only on the levina that we say kichatasi, but the shemen it's still going to pass. Why do we pick? Right? We could have done it the other way around. We could say that when the Torah says kichatasi, it's going back on the shemen, saying that's kosher, and the levina is possible. It's like only b'shemen she'afshel l'laktei, machshir b'levina she'afshel l'laktei. The Gemara says there's a reason why it's different, as the Mishnah said, because levina is concrete pieces. It's chunks of levina, whatever that is. Like we said, it's frankincense. Everyone knows what frankincense is, but it's chunks. So you can pick it up, you can take it off. But shemen, obviously, you mix shemen with oil, that is not reversible. Once the shemen is in the oil, it can't be taken out. So we're matir the thing that can be taken off. If we have a choice of which one we're going to say is kosher, we say the one that you can take off, and then you take it off. And the one that's not capable of being taken off remains possible. Ba Rabba bar Rav Huna, me Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Huna asked Rabbi Yochanan, Nothing aleha levina shchuka. What if he took ground levina, not the chunks of levina, but like with the way we eat our pepper and our garlic powder, he ground it up into a powder. Mao mishum the afshel alakta of halay afshel alakta. The reason why we said that the pasuk is referring to levina when it says kichatasi that it remains kosher is because it's able to be taken off, and this is not able to be taken off. It's still it's impossible to take out, even though it remains something discrete. It's not like shemen that it gets absorbed, but in theory, I guess it's possible to take it out. If you go with a microscope or you use a spectrometer, what are those things that where you spin it around in a circle and it takes things of different densities, it separates them, but it's not practically possible to take it out. So therefore, since it's not possible to take out the levina, will have the same din as the shemen. Or it has to do with the fact that it's not, when we say that the levina is not going to passel the mincha, it's because it's not absorbed. Even though you can't take it out, it's not absorbed into the flour. It's just impossible to sift them, to separate them. Toshma, I'll bring a raya from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said, the levina you should take it off. So from the fact that the Mishnah says That if when he takes it off, it's kosher, it's mashma. Until he takes it off, it's puzzle. So therefore, the powdered levina would remain puzzle because it's impossible to take it off. So maybe the mission doesn't mean to say that you must take it off. First of all, it's kosher because it's not absorbed. And secondly, you are required to take it off. You're over by an essay by putting it in, and therefore you do have to take it out. But that's not what makes it kosher. It's kosher even if you don't take it out. Toshma, I'll bring you another raya. Makshani b'levaina she'efshel l'loikta. The Brisa says a machsher levina because it's possible to take it out. Hachanami chadavoid coming. You could say the same teretz on this Brisa that it means that not that you have to take it out in order for it to be kosher because it's going to be kosher because it was absorbed because it's not absorbed, but you shouldn't take it out. Amr my Haviala, what's taka the psak? Amar Nachman Yitzchak Tanya, Minchas Chayta, or Minchas Kenoyas. The Minchas Chayta, which is the Mincha, like we said, the Mincha of a carbonite Levi Yared, where he brought a Mincha Minchas Kenoyas. The Mincha of a Saita, that both of those don't have Shem and Levina. Shenasan Levina, that you put Levina in it, Malakris Levina Ksheira. You take out the Levina and then it's kosher. And so, first of all, we see already malakat levainu kshera. It sounds like only if he is malakat levainu is a kasher. V'imad shaloi likat levainosa chishav aleh bein chutz lezmanai bein chutz l'mkaimai. If he had a machshavas chutz lezmanai or chutz l'mkaimai, possible. It's going to be possible. So, if we're saying ve'ein by karas, it's going to be possible. Ve'ein by karas, it's going to be possible. And it's not going to be karas if, for example, if it was chutz l'zman. Obviously, if it's chutz l'mkaim, there's no karas. There's only karas for machshavas pidul. So since we were saying since before you took away the levina, it was in some way invalid. So the machshavas pidul is not going to be chal to make him chayiv karas. V'im mishalika levainasa, if after he took off the levaina, machash v'aleh chutzum koyim pasul, v'im bekaras, chutzum zman, pigel b'chayvin of karas. After he takes it off, then it's going to be regular mincha, and you can have a machshavas pigel to be mechayiv karas. So you see from this that prior to taking off the levaina, it's going to pasul. We're saying it's the mincha is not going to be kosher from the fact that we're saying he's not going to be chayiv karas. If it's going to be a 100% kosher mincha before you take off the levina, then there would be no reason for the pigel not to take effect. Vaistais, the levina while it's on it is affecting it. Okay, so you see. This is the answer to our question. As long as levina is there, it's going to passel. And obviously, if you have powdered levina, since it can't be taken off, it's going to remain passel forever. Frak the Gemara. Zok the Gemara. We came up with the conclusion of our original question. Now we're going to talk about this brisa that we just said that says as long as the levina is on the minchas chayta, it's if you do have a machshavas pigel, it's going to be possible, but aim bakaras. And after you take away the levina, then it's going to be pigel. If you have a machshavas chutz l'zmani. Zok Gemara v'tehavi pach. Why is it different than oil, shemen, which comes in a pach? That if you put shemen on a mincha, and then you have a machshavas pigel, it's not going to be chayiv karas, and it's not going to become possible because of the machshava. meaning you would, which only nafkamina would be possible anyway because there's shemen in it, but it would additionally not get the din of pigel. David pech v'amai pasal machshava dichoyhu. It should have the same din of shemen that it will passel it, and there'll not be any. It will remain possible forever. Let's say this this levina that was on it should also passel it forever, even after you take off the levina. We say that it's the machshavas pigel. It's going to be puzzle with the why does it become puzzle? Because of the machshavas pigel. Let's say that in the meantime, this is not able to be used as a mincha because it has levain on it, and therefore the machshavas pigel should not take effect. And after levaina goes away, we always know that after you take off levaina, it becomes kosher, like we said before. So why is this? In spite of the fact that he had a machshavas pigel, let's say that machshavas pigel was pushed away. This is different than a usual dichay. Whenever we talk about dichay, we say something that it's possible for a certain period of time, it remains possible forever. He was saying the exact opposite. Was saying, since at the time that the Levina was on it, this mincha was not a valid mincha, and you cannot have a machshavas pigel on an invalid carbon. So at that time, that machshavas pigel was meaningless. So later, when you take away the Levina, it should become kosher again. So why did the prices say it becomes puzzle because of the machshavas pigel or machshavas chutzum koimet? Amar Abaya, Chatas Kaya Rachmana. He says we learn out from the pasuk, since the pasuk called it a chatas, even with the levina on it, that we said it doesn't become possible because of the levina, that it can become kosher when you take off the levina. So it also remains a chatas. With it's still enough of a kosher carbon that the machshavas pigel will pass. That's Abayi's teretz. Rava Amahamani Chanra Mitzri, the less late Chuyin. This is going according to the Mandam Chanra Mitzri. And he doesn't hold that something becomes Dachui if at the time it's incapable of being used. We don't say that remains permanently the case. The Tanya. Chanra Mitzrayim, Afilu Dam Bekois, maybe Chaver Shabbalagolo Mazabagla. This is talking about the two Seirei, the Seir Mavim Kippur, that you have to bring a Sar Lashem and a Sar Lazal. So the Sar Lashem gets shechted, and the dam is thrown. You do Zrikas Adam with that sawyer, and the Sar Mishtalech is thrown off the on the side of the mountain. And the rule is you have to have both of them. You have to have both the Sar Lashem and the Sar Lazal. So you went through the whole process of the Sar Lashem, you shechted and you put the dam in the kais and you're ready to throw it. And at that time, the Sar Lazazel died before it could be taken and thrown off the mountain. So the problem is you have to have both of them in order for it to be kosher. So he says, even if you have the dam in the kais and it's ready to go, and now it becomes unable to do the zrikas adam because it doesn't have its zug, it doesn't have its pair. Says you go get another sar, and you don't have to do a girdle. You just take another sar and you pair it up with this sar lashem, the kais of the sar lashem, and then you could be zayrik it. But the problem is, before you got this other sar, it was a pasala kais of dam. And that should be doicha, that it can no longer become kosher in the future. Vaisais, he holds, even though it was possible for a time, that doesn't make it permanently possible. The same thing over here. We're going to say it's going to come out the opposite way. We're going to say this is going according to the Manda Amar that it says that according to this Manda Amar Chanana Mitzri, that says something that is dachir for time doesn't change its status for the future. So too over here, even though at the time that it was that you had the machshavas pigel, at that time it could not be used. That doesn't make it dachui, and therefore the machshavas pigel is able to take effect to passel it forever. Rav Ashi Amar, Kol Shabiyada Lehavidach. He says a different text. He says, no, we can even be going to man who holds of dachin. But since over here you have the ability to take off the levina, that that doesn't make it dachin. So that's why the machshavas pigul could take effect. It's not a real dichoy since you have the ability to fix it. Amr Vadik Abasa de Rav Ashi Mistavra. It seems likely that Rav Ashi, who said Kol Shabiyada is not a dicha, is correct. The man Shamalei Deslei Dechuyin Rabbi Yehudi. Yehudi is the man the Amar who says, who holds of Tchuyin. The Tanan, V'oy Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Nefshech Adam Yemasam Mishalech, Mesam Mishalech Yishbech Adam. He says, if the dam poured out, you have to kill the Mishtalech. And if the Mishtalech died, you have to pour out the dam. He doesn't hold, like we said before, that you can go ahead and be shy and be zerek the dam of the Sar Lashem when you get a new Sar HaMishtalech. He says it got dachui, and therefore it's not going to be good forever. Vilu heicha to be yadai. But that's in the case of the Sar Lashem that died. The Sar Lazazel died. So you can't fix its being dead. You could bring another one, but that's not going to fix the original one. So it's not biyadai to fix it. Vilu hacha to be yadai tanya Rabbi Yehuda kaisayim amalam bidam atarugas. We said we had this a while ago that on Erev Pesach, people would sometimes spill out some of their dam onto the floor, would never get thrown from their carbon Pesach. It would end up, they were up to the, if you remember, the Kohanim were knee deep in blood, and they had to go jumping on the posts from one to the other. But in any case, we say that you take from that dam, that mixed dam, and you throw it on the Mizbech to be mitzi whoever's dam didn't end up getting a Zrika earlier. But while it's on the floor, it's not in the klisharis. So therefore, l'chayr it was dachay. And even so, Rabbi Yehuda says you take some of that dam and you zayrik it. The zayrik is zrika is connected to your side, and we're not worried about dicha. So it must be because it's biyadai, since you can just pick it up and put it back into a kais, that's not considered dachay. Amr Yisrael b'Yosef Amr Rabbi Yochanan nosan ma. Okay, so that is the conclusion of our discussion. We gave a number of terutzim. We said l'chayr this biyadai is a good svara, and l'chayr it's the correct pshat. Amr Rabbi Yisrael ben Yosef, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, nosan mashu shemen al gabi kazayis mincha pasul. If you took even a mashu of shemen, you don't have to have a shear of the shemen, even a little bit of shemen on top of a kazayis of a mincha. You have to have a kazayis of the mincha that you're throwing it onto. Pasul. That's enough to pasul, like we said, a minchas chayta and a minchas kenois that are not allowed to have shemen. My timer, le'yosem. The Torah says le'yosem, sima kol. It says a sima of any size, even a mashu. A leah, and the Torah says a leah on it, adik ashira. But on the mincha, it has to be a shear of the mincha. It can't be that you put a mashu of shemen on a mashu of the mincha. It has to be on a shear of the mincha, which is a kazayis. But Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, and he says another din, Amar Rav Yochanan, nothing kazayis levoina al gabe mashu mincha. By levoina, it's the other way around. You have to have a kazayis of levoina, but it's going to be over on a lav. When we say pasul, I think it means that you're going to be chayiv. Or maybe it means if it's I'm not sure why we're talking about pasul over here. It must be a lav. Must be talking about the lav, even though we say pasul. Or it pasul says as long as it's on there, like we said. It's going to pasul as long as it's there. So nasan aleh kazayis levoina al gabe mashu mincha. If you put a kazayis of levoina, so it's the other way around. The thing that you're putting on is a kazayis. On top of even a mashu of the mincha, it passes. My timer, lo yitin ksid, adek and nesina. Says lo yitin until there's a nesina, and if that means it has to be a kazayis. Aleha, havi ribuy. Then it says aleha, that it has to be on it. Now before we said aleha legabe the shemen, and we said that it has to be a kazayis of shemen, and now it says again aleha by the levina. Why does it have to say it again? Habi ribi achar riboy. It's the second riboy. Ben riboy achar riboy el lamayit. Whenever you have a ribi achar miyat, achar riboy, it's coming to mayit. It's saying that you don't have to have a kazayas of what you're putting it on. So by the Levina, it will passel even with a mashu, even when you're putting the kazayas of Levina on a mashu. V'kedamri, some have a different version of what Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef said. V'kedamri Amar Yitzchak Yosef, boy Rabbi Yochanan, noson mashu shemen al gabi kazayas min chamau. The first thing that we said, that we had said before, if you put a mashu of shemen on top of a kazayas of minchatz pasel, this has it that it was asked as a question. What's the din? Noson mashu shemen al gabi kazayas min chamau mi be'inon sima knesina. Do we say that the amount that the putting of shemen has to be the same as the nesina of levina, and it's going to need that we said by the levina, we said nesina, that it has to be a choshev nesina of a kazayas, or maybe not. Teku. And he left it as a shaila. That means, so he never answered, according to this version, he didn't answer the question. It wasn't like he stated before as an assertion that you must have, you do not need, since it doesn't say Nesina, therefore it doesn't need a kazayas. Or now it's saying maybe you do learn it out from the Levina where it says you have to be la yosim, which is a lashon la yitin. I'm sorry. So nesin is a lashon that has to be a chashav and nesina with a kazayis. So maybe you learn out the shemen from the levina. Zaktamar nosan shemen al shira. If you put the shemen not on the mincha itself, but after you took the kaimitz, you put the shemen on what was left afterwards, which is supposed to be eaten by the kehanim. Taraban lo yosem al Hashem liyitin. You shouldn't put shemen and you should put on levina. Yachal b'shnei kaihanim. Maybe that means if it's only if there's two separate kaihanim, there's going to be a separate lav for putting on shemen and putting on levina. But if one kain did both of them, he's only going to be chayiv one. Tamalayma aleh begufa shel mincha akasu medaber v'loy b'kayin. It says aleh. That's referring to the mincha, that there's a separate lav, that there's two lavin in the mincha. It doesn't mean that it's talking about the kayin, that if it's the same kayin, that he's not going to be chayiv. Yachal yitin kli al gabe kli b'nosam pasel. Maybe we said in the Mishnah that if you put a kli with shemen or kli with levina on top of the mincha, it's not going to pasel. Maybe even if you put it a kli al gabe kli, the Torah is saying you can't do it, and if you do it, it's pasel. Again, that means it has to be in the actual body of the mincha. It has to be physical contact. If you put it in a kli, it's not touching on the mincha itself. Okay, Zok the Mishnah. Yesh tunas hagoshav ein tunas snufa. There are some minchas that need to be brought near. That means you take the whole mincha and you bring it close to the mizbeach. Ve'ein tunas tnufa, but they don't need to be waved around. Hagasha utnufa. There's some that need both hagasha and tnufa. Tnufa v'lei hagasha. Some need just the waving and not bringing near. And loy tnufa v'lei hagasha. And some don't need either one of them. We have all four possible combinations. Or is it, yeah. Ve'elu tu'unas hagasha ve'ein tu'unas tnufa. These are the ones that need to be brought near, but they don't need to be waved. Minchas hasoilis, the mincha made out of regular flour. V'hamachvas u'macheshes, the two coins that are made in a pan. V'chalas v'rakikin, and those that are made baked in the oven, and those are rakikin that are baked thicker, and rakikin are made thinner. But all those are minchas nadava. Those are five different ones. Those are five versions of a mincha that's given as a gift. Minchas kehanim is also a gift, but from a kayin, but it's fully burnt. It's not, nothing is eaten from it. Or minchas kayin mashiach, the chavite kayin gadol. Minchas nachem nashim, a mincha of also given by a guy, like we said in the last Mishnah. He can send a mincha nadava. A minchas nashim, a mincha given by a woman, which again is not any really different. Or minchas chayta. A minchas chayta also has this din that it needs hagasha, but it doesn't need tnufa. Reb Shimon Aimer, Minchas Kaihanim or Minchas Kayan Mashiach ain't by an Hagasha. He disagrees. We listed in the list of things that need Hagasha that Minchas Kayanim, which is a Mincha of a Kayan that's fully burnt, and the Minchas Kayan Mashiach, or the Chavite Kayan Gadol, which is also fully burnt. Ain't by an Hagasha. They don't have Hagasha. Levisha ain't by Kmitza. Since they're fully burnt, they don't have a Kaimitz. And the Gemara is going to say that if you don't have Kaimitz, you don't have a din Hagasha. Holshem ben Kmitza ain't ben Hagasha. That precludes it. So the Mishnah sort of stopped the middle because the Mishnah had said we have four different possibilities, and then the Mishnah only analyzed the first one. So really, the Mishnah goes on and it goes to explain what are the cases where it has Snuf, it doesn't have Agasha, where it doesn't have either one, and it does have both of them. But we never got to it. Amr Papa, Kol Heicha de Tnan Eser Tnan. Wherever we say a list of minchas, we're saying 10. And if you add it up, there are 10 examples of things that need Hagasha and not Tnufa. My kamashma. Lafukim der Shimon the Amar mechza chalas or mechza rikikin yavi. This is like we said on the last Mishnah when we also said that it's 10. It's coming to exclude Rav Shimon who says that the chalas and rikikin, in addition to the separate chalas and rikikin, you could take 5 of each and mix it. So that's an 11th. So therefore we say 10th. 10, that's not like Rav Shimon who says kamashmal and Deloy that this Mishnah is not holding like him. Minohani mili. Zok to Gemara, where does it come from that you have to do Hagasha on these things? The Tana Rabbanan ilu nema vehevesa asher yasa me'ela lashem. The pasuk actually stops. Vehevesa hamincha asher yasa me'ela lashem. The pasuk says that what doesn't say it's a mincha. We're talking about a mincha. If we just said vehevesa asher yasa me'ela lashem v'kives hakoyin alakan v'gisha, the Torah would say, continue and say that you have to be made. You have to do Hagasha. You see Omer. I would have said it's only the kaimitz that needs Agasha because it says Asher Yakrivu. Vikrivu el Akayin. What are you bringing? What? I'm sorry. What's the end of the pasuk? It says Amincha Asher Yasem El Hashem Vikrivu el Akayin Vigish el HaMizbeach. Says you bring it on the Mizbeach Vikrivu, but the Kain's gonna. Then the pasuk says that he's going to take it as and be kaimitz it. So I would say it's only referring to the kaimitz. Mincha minayin. How do we know that the whole mincha needs to be brought to the kain? Maybe only bring the part of the kain that he has to throw on the mizbeach. Talmud Laima mincha. For the fact that we added the word mincha, that tells you that it has to be the whole mincha has it in hagasha. Minchas chayta minayin. How do we know the minchas chayta, which doesn't have a kaimitz? I'm sorry, no, it does have a kaimitz. How do you know the minchas chayta is also included? I would say that the minchas chayta, which doesn't have, like we said, it doesn't have shaman, it doesn't have levina. Maybe that's different, and it doesn't need hagasha. We were talking about minchas nedava before. Minchas chayta is something that he's mechayiv to do. How do we know that it's the same thing? From the esa mincha, that tells you also the minchas chayta. In fact, what do I need to learn it out from Esa Mincha? V'dinu nemar hacha minchas chayva v'nema. I'm sorry, never have by minchas chayta. That's what they change it for. V'nemar have minchas nedava. It says the word have that you should bring it both by the chaytva, by the minchas chayta, which is the chayva, and by the minchas nedava, which is all the ones that the first ones we listed in the Mishnah. Minchas nedava tuna hagasha av minchas chayta chayva tuna hagasha. So Gemara, no, you can't learn it out from a kavachayim. They need shem levina. Minchas saita. So there's a minchas chayv. It doesn't. So come on, minchas saita techiach. We'll learn out from minchas saita, which does need hagasha, which the Gemara is going to explain soon, where we see that you need minchas saita needs hagasha. So and even though it doesn't need shemen and levina, it still needs hagasha. So it has it in tenufa. So we say minchas nedava, which doesn't need tenufa, and even so it needs hagasha. They both need kmitza and they need hagasha. Lahagasha. It should also need Hagasha. So Gemara Malatzara Shavush Shechein Hukshuru Lavai Ba'ashir Kibani. No, the Saita and the Nadava are brought the same whether a person is wealthy or poor. Minchas Chayta Shalei Hukshuru Lavai Ba'ashir Kibani. Minchas Chayta is only brought by an ani; it's not brought by an usher. Tamalai Mesa Mincha. That's why we needed a pasuk to tell you that a Minchas Chayta also needs Hagasha. Okay, we're going to stop over here. As Shem, we'll continue on Matzah Shabbos shortly after Shabbos. Have a wonderful Shabbos.